I wanted to share a little bit about my personal testimony for 10 minutes or whatnot. And of course, if you're watching this on the internet, you can follow along with some of the things that I emphasize via the hashtags on Twitter and Facebook. Like one of them's proper testimony, hashtag proper testimony. And I will add emphasis as I remember so you can follow along with the discussion. Hello, how are you, brother? Come on in. Good to see you, man. Thanks for coming. So I began sharing about the president of Syria rising to power and, of course, laying waste his own country in late 1996. And I've written down just a timeline. Did that beep?
Something beep.
Something beep? Seemed like it's recording. It's still a countdown going?
It's still counting.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
In late 1996, I began to study about the last days from Daniel and Revelation, and that led on into Isaiah and many other passages, which we'll briefly list as a bullet in a bullet format. But in 1996, I began sharing about the King of the North, the man of sin, the son of perdition, and his coming to power about 4 years before he ever even took office. And I'm going to establish in this timeline some of those events, and I don't know if you're watching on the internet or not, but we've been talking a little bit about it on Facebook, and people are coming and affirming the words you will hear today. And we've been taking some screenshots of people that are being brought back into my life, and some that we've reached out to and whatnot. Way back into 1997, these are just average folks, church folks, just run-of-the-mill people that are affirming these things that were in fact foretold from my mouth, and of course the scriptures that point out this fact. And so that's kind of what this video is for, to establish indeed hashtag proper testimony. In 1997, I wrote down all of the things that I will list here in the scriptures and with a pen and ink. That's a hashtag too, by the way. Hashtag pen and ink. And made a list. This was before social media and stuff like that was prolific. In 1998 and 99, I began sharing in North Florida, and that is the location where you'll see a lot of the early people that were understanding this from over 2 decades ago coming and affirming. You'll notice that they're from the North Florida area. I began sharing in North Florida, and oddly enough, around that same time, Google.com became a domain, September 15th, 1997. So we've been sharing this a long time, and that to say this, not to boast about my own abilities. I'm a man, I'm spit and clay, but just to say the Father is good, and He reveals His things to His servants before they come to pass, and so that we're not left in the dark, and we can see. And in 1999, late 1999, I said that Hafez Al-Assad would die, and Bashar, his son, would take office, though he was not old enough to be in office according to the Syrian constitution, and had expressed disinterest because of his own career as an ophthalmologist. He expressed disinterest anyway. That happened in late 1999. And I remember now some of the people that witnessed this testimony before Hafez actually died. One group of folks one couple was Ronnie and Katrina Sadler, and they are the pastors of the Jasper Church of God at the time in North Florida. The reason I found out about it coming to pass even nearly a year later, not quite a year later rather, Hafez died on Saturday, June 10th, 2000. I was awakened. It was on a Saturday morning, and I was awakened that morning with a phone call from the youth pastors at that Church of God, Ronnie and Katrina, telling me that it had happened. And they weren't the only ones that heard me say this, but several other people called throughout that week and whatnot, even family members from Oklahoma and some other people in the North Florida area, that it had in fact come to pass in less than one full circuit of the sun. That absolutely came to pass. He died, Hafez, the Sphinx of Damascus. He died Saturday, June 10th, 2000. And Bashar was now slated to be in office, and everybody was looking to him as a modernizer. Not me, I was not. I knew he would destroy his own land and people and then move toward the south. And just imagine what he will do to the people in Israel. Just believe his mouth if you don't believe my mouth. Imagine what he will do to the people of Israel when you see when you've already seen what he does to his own people. His affections and the reconstruction money that is now pouring into Syria to build the country that this innocent victim has suffered at the hands of the Western aggressors is all going to head south. He worships a god of fortresses and military stronghold of munitions, and he is funding all that money coming in. Not all of it, but most of it is going to be pointed right south, right where his horn is pointed and his mouth is pointed to the south, where he will go across the northern border of Israel, and at that point the nations will be in utter turmoil. So in 2000, again specifically Saturday, June 10th, that is when Hafez died, but not without warning. People were looking to him, like I said, as a modernizer, and he wasn't actually even slated to be in office. His brother was groomed for it previously, but his brother died, and so now he takes office. In 2000, he assumed office, specifically July 17th, 2000, about 4 years after I said he would take office. Again, I know that this could sound boastful. Look, if it wasn't going to be me, it was going to be somebody else. Period. It just has to be. That's just the way that it works. Father does not leave his children in darkness. You shall know a tree by the fruit that it bears. The man said that. The good shepherd that protects us against the evening wolves. And look at the fruit of Syria. Look at it. It is cut down. Every tree that has not been planted by my Father will be uprooted and burned. And so all of the lies of Babel to the north are being cut down as we speak, as I'm speaking now. And so it isn't good fruit. Period. This is not complicated. The Father made it very simple for us to understand. It is an absolute quagmire. Now, I watched his eyes dilate a decade before. Come on in, Krista. I watched his eyes dilate a decade before as he challenged the West to come on, bring it. You could see his pupils dilate. Other people have seen it too. Because I knew the distance that he would go to have thy will be done. And pulling out all the stops. Just absolutely obliterating his land and people, as the prophet Isaiah and really the whole of scriptures pertaining to this topic point out. Again, July 17th, 2000 is when he assumed office for the first time. They chalked the Syrian constitution. I think it was 34, if I remember correctly, and it mandated him to be 40, and so they slid that right out of the way. And there was, I remember it like it was yesterday, there was a bunch of vicissitudes, if you will, upheaval. Is he going to be able to be in office? Yes. Whatever it took, he would be in office. And nothing would stop that. No human will topple him. When the Arab Spring started, and people, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and people thought, oh, Assad's going to fall, he was going to go nowhere. At any point, there was no point at which he would be toppled. Tunisia's leader fell. Egypt's Hosni Mubarak fell. Upheaval in Yemen. Gaddafi, Libya, fell, gone, out of the way. And I remember vividly, I said it on profoundprophecy.com, and other people knew too, that he would not fall, that the buck would stop with him, that he would destroy his own land, destroy his own people, before he destroys Israel and her allies, with his own allies. And that, of course, is the summit that we now find ourselves at, as the major conflagration and flashpoint, the Golan Heights, is now coming into view. He is now gunning for it. That came from my mouth long before you ever heard him on media talking about it with any power behind him, albeit his international mob, that he is now in the kings of the East and Iran and Lebanon, before they were gathered there to that border. It came out of my mouth, and before it came out of my mouth, it came out of the mouths of the prophets. And so in 2003, I recorded, and I checked this out, 2003. I recorded a video called The Blasphemer. It was inspired by the passage in the scriptures where it talks about he will blaspheme those who dwell in heaven. He will utter monstrous, profane, contemptuous utterances to those who dwell in heaven. And he will be bolstered by a fallen host of heaven, which a long time ago descended to Mount Hermon and deceived the masses and deceived human beings, and we all defile ourselves with their deceptions today. He will be bolstered by that host of heaven and scoff and mock at anything possibly even being higher than that. So he will blaspheme those who dwell in heaven. Even the seed of David, which is a faithful testimony in the heavens. And the seed of David establishes kingship on earth. He is the king of the north, a profane prince of Israel. Wicked in every way. Looks good outside. Nice suits, tailored, soft, low-breath talking, guttural speech to draw you in, to woo you. He's going after the light that is in you. Yeah, he has affections for you, but not for good. He seeks to cut you off so that you'll be zealous for him. And he is part of a body of people that do that. In 2003, again, I got a little bit derailed. In 2003, I recorded this video called The Blasphemer. And I began distributing on something called VCD. Some of you might not even know what a VCD is. It's a video compact disc. It's before DVDs. In the North Florida area. The VCD is a compressed, low-quality format before DVDs became available. And it preceded the DVD and, in fact, superseded VHS and Betamax. So that is how long, again, I've been sharing the same message about the man who isn't going anywhere but south in fulfillment of my words for this generation. See, south. How many of you have ever heard the term, man, things really went south? Things are really going to go south. I mean that. They're going to go south, right? The word in the Hebrew is Negev. It's the southern region of Judea and the southern part of the Levant, which is the eastern Mediterranean region. And he is the king of the north. The word Zaphon, which has its roots, Bradley?
Jebel al-Akra. It's on the modern Syrian-Turkish border,
right?
Where all the Alawites are gathered.
And they're near, and that's Latakia or Laodicea, which is Laodicea, Syria, to the very north of the Levant. And that entire area that he governs over is the barbarous region to the north, the very heart of the Gog-Umagog passages, that head of the north, the head of the all of these rebel nations, this ominous region to the north. Of course, being in Damascus, which will soon be obliterated in fulfillment of Isaiah 17:1. And then he goes across, even simultaneously in the next verses 2 and 3 and onward, he goes across the northern border, Aroer and Ephraim, and eventually he does the opposite of what the seed of David would do. In his good news of peace and life and love and hope and light, he takes the gospel message, of course, and instructs us to do the same thing from where? Judea, Samaria, to the uttermost parts, which is a euphemism for beyond the dark, foreboding region to the north. And what the man of sin does, the son of perdition, the willful king of the north, is the opposite. This is not difficult. You will see there's nowhere that you can go to escape these words from my mouth. Not anywhere on the planet. It is going to happen. Avert your eyes to your own destruction. It is going to happen. It is happening. And it is high time that we begin to affirm this, and in doing so, choose life. So, Betamax out of the way. Distributed on VCD and on CDs around North Florida, and that was around 2003. In 2005, I believe if I remember correctly, I recorded a video at an Assembly of God church in Keystone Heights, Florida that's widely circulated on the internet. It was taught through a Christian filter. Kindly ignore the silliness that I said in there that was not from the canon. Those are ideas that I brought into it, and that is not, there are things in there that need to be, pruned, I suppose. The message remains true nonetheless. I recorded that video at the Assembly of God Church in Keystone Heights, Florida. I had a short beard and was wearing a black jacket. That was in 2005. Oddly enough, February 14th, 2005, the domain name youtube.com was activated. For 6 of the next 8 to 9 years, I traveled all over the North American continent, sharing about Assad's destruction prior to it being witnessed by the institutions of Christianity and Judaism, as well as many loosely knit home group environments and private secular meetings, again, all over the North American continent. And in 2010, we have the Arab Spring. Late 2010, we have the Arab Spring, and everybody falsely placed their hopelessness in his fall, and that my words would not be seen true. And I remember receiving PMs from people, private messages from people, oh, Assad's going to fall. Assad isn't going anywhere but where the scripture says, and that is south. And he will drag the light of the world with him and continue to trample truth to the ground like he's been doing for 2 decades.
They laughed.
They laughed. Go ahead, brother.
They still laugh.
They indeed, they still laugh.
They're looking at it and they laugh.
They look at it and have no idea where they are or where they're going because of the scoffers and mockers. Hashtag scoffers and mockers. Scoffing and mocking is serious. It's a veritable pushback from a gentle word and admonition and warning. It is a scoff. It is disastrous in every way. The wink and nod. Hashtag winkers and nodders. Winkers and nodders. The like pilers. The clickers. And the mob builders. They will not be laughing soon. If you were part of the mob, run from it. We are all told not to be quick to join a mob, and all of us have done it. Let's stop and let's choose life. Look how well Assad deals with mobs. I mean, in Daraa is where the major flashpoint was in southern Syria, Damascus suburb. There were people protesting, young people, a lot of them, and he used his hashtag unequal weights and measures and obliterated young people, and that spread like wildfire all over the country. They were protesting, largely peaceful. So what if there are a few shots fired here and there? It does not justify pulverizing to the ground everything that is worshipped or that is called God, so that you can sit on your little throne in Damascus. That is in every way an unequal weight and measure. So in 2010, that Arab Spring popped up, and everybody was hoping that he would fall. No, he did not. Damascus, again in Isaiah 17:1, is a city soon to be obliterated. The eastern portions of Ghouta and Duma and whatnot in eastern and Daraa utterly pulverized. And after the war was won, he went back and flattened the neighborhood just to add insult to misery, like salt on a wound. I mean, nobody was there; they'd fled, and just to show the depth of the depravity and the heavy hand, smashed it and obliterated. He does this stuff all over the entire country. That's his own folks. Isaiah 14, he destroys his own land and people before that lion leaves his thicket and heads south, which is where his own mouth, don't believe my mouth, believe his. I mean, believe it. He heads south, right across Golan, in that covenant with death, hashtag covenant with death. It is in every way making friends with darkness, both above and below, hashtag above and below. And so during the Syrian war, which is, I guess, now in full swing to be wrapped up here shortly, he's won the war. Everything he does will prosper until the wrath, hashtag the wrath, is accomplished for what is determined shall be done. And so as that Syrian war is wrapped up, where do you suppose he's gunning for? I mean, whose fault is it according to his own mouth? Be it after the Zionist aggressors, the New World Order, and the Western aggressors. So, friends, do this. Please know Abraham left Syria, and he's not a murderer. The Abrahamic faiths do not. If you're part of an Abrahamic faith that you perceive to have begun in Syria, you're late in the game, because faith is the substance of that which is hoped for and the evidence of that which is not seen. So don't confuse an Abrahamic faith, whether it be Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, with the faith of Abraham himself. because he left Syria and the lies and did not create a wake of destruction and rubble. One time it was said that, Scott, everywhere you go, you leave a wake of destruction. My mouths, if they've hurt you, I apologize, but it is for your betterment and plans for your prosperity and not to hurt you. I have not lifted my hand against it. I've not slaughtered anybody with my own hands. I will not, but what I will not do is be quiet. I will not be silent anymore, because it comes with it. What comes with it is blood on my hands. I will not do it. So I encourage you guys, if you've heard some of this testimony at any given point, I don't care whether it's some of you folks from North Florida down in when I was just wet behind the ears and had more passion than I had wisdom in the late 1990s or whatnot. It's important that you speak up for you. I'm not going to be silent. But anyway, I just wanted to get this little brief synopsis of dates and times. I think I covered most of the points from that. Yep, I wanted that on video, and I might add to it later, but that kind of takes us up to the war, really about 14 years or so before Daraa, which is where Assad really started using that. What I knew was in him all along. Friends, we haven't even begun to see. The stroke is just now about to broaden and widen. The lawlessness that is in him has been confined to his own borders, just like Isaiah states in other passages as well. He's going to shortly leave his own thicket, in the words of Jeremiah. The lion, which is Arabic Al-Assad, will come up from his thicket. He leaves his land to lay waste Israel. Tel Aviv will burn. Haifa will burn. I don't like this. I have brothers and sisters all over the world that I know are going to have chosen death. That does not mean you've chosen damnation. But we are commanded and instructed to choose life. Life and light and hope, and not the wolf of Arabah or an evening wolf of Judaism that puts darkness for light, that puts bitter waters below for the sweet waters above, or even evil for good.